In this session, you will learn how to grab your potential buyers' attention and make them feel that your product is the one worth to be purchased. And for this, we will be learning how to use the search and rescue method. And our guest today will be Brian Johnson from Canopy Management. He runs an agency for managing advertising accounts for Amazon sellers. But before we move on with the session, I would like to introduce the sponsors of this session. And the first one is Getida. They help with Amazon FBA reimbursements. So they help to claim money back from Amazon, which owes you. You will find the link below in the description. The next sponsor is Z. It's a full service for customs compliance and logistics, and they are one-stop shop if you would like to expand your e-commerce business globally. Again, you will find the link below in the description. The next company is Helium 10. They are all-in-one suite for Amazon and Walmart sellers, and they have different tools for different level of sellers. Next company which is sponsoring this session is Unibrands, and they are Amazon FBA acquirers. They buy and build the brands. Actually, not only Amazon, but also Shopify direct-to-consumer brands. So if you want to exit your e-commerce business, you might want to talk to them. And you will find the links below. And the final, last but not least, it's Perpetua. It's a e-commerce advertising optimization and intelligence software on Amazon and Walmart and a few other marketplaces. So if you want to automate your Amazon PPC campaigns, check their website and check their service. And this session I'm hosting together with Lisette Lies. She works with different Amazon brands and hosts Orange Click videos. Hello, Lisette.
Hi, Augustus. Hi, everybody else as well. Super glad to be back here. And now our guest is Brian. So, Brian, before we go to your presentation, could you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do in the Amazon space?
Sure. So my name is Brian Johnson. I typically go by Brian R. Johnson because there's a few others out there with the same name. So I've been in e-commerce for about 14 years, Amazon for the last 7 years, and I've had the privilege of working with and helping over 20,000 brands sell over $1 billion on Amazon in my career. So I've been very fortunate that I've had that much opportunity to work with such a wide variety of brands and help them grow on Amazon. So I primarily focus in on the marketing and advertising point of view. Originally started out with introduced one of the first PPC software for Amazon, the first advertising course for Amazon, advertising community. And most of these, it wasn't because, wasn't because I was trying to make money off of them. I was trying to figure things out for my own brands as well. So I was trying to solve some questions and get the discussion going. And so these are things that were missing in the community. So I brought them because I needed them myself. So I went ahead and just created them. And then now, of course, I'm with Canopy Management. I did co-found Canopy Management, and we're a fast-growing company. We actually made it to to one of the high-ranking charts on as far as fastest-growing companies in the United States. And we're creating a great track record and keeping things moving forward.
Sounds really good. So can you briefly let us know what's today's topic that you will share your knowledge about?
Absolutely. So one of the things that most of what I'm known for, of course, is advertising, as far as growing sales, growing profitability. And as we certainly have recognized over the past 2.5 years, that as the advertising continues to get more and more expensive, you've got to solve some issues ahead of advertising in order for the advertising to work at its best, work at its peak. And that includes proper listing optimization and conversion rate optimization. There's a lot of sellers, a lot of brands that are still using very outdated practices they learned years ago from Amazon courses that were out there. And they think that those are still working, and they're not. And so we can pretty much go into any niche and essentially dominate that niche simply by directing our messaging to the target audience. So what I'm going to be specifically talking about today is really having your product listing stand out from the rest of your competition. So you grab the eye of the shopper, you pull that shopper into your product listing by hooking their attention through your title, and then ultimately increasing the conversion rate on the product by talking to what are the primary benefits and the key points that your product brings. So different than what you typically see with listing optimization and SEO. And that's why I had designed for Canopy Management the product search and rescue method that we use today.
Very good. Very excited. I think our viewers are excited as well. So I guess let's not wait no more, and let's go to your presentation then.
Fantastic. Thanks. All right. So just kind of what we're going to do. Here's kind of a quick overview, and I'll go into a little bit more detail as far as what we're going to do in order to stand out from the competition. The reason you need to stand out is, I'll get into that here in a second here, but what we're going to try to do is we're going to identify common patterns among the search results that comes back on Amazon, right? That are going to provide you an opportunity in order to essentially emphasize or make your product listings stand out and differentiate from the crowd of product listings that Amazon is showing to that same shopper. So we want to be able to grab the eye of the shopper so they see your image quickly, your main image quickly. We want them to be able to see something unique in your product title that is going to pull them into your product listing, increasing your sessions. And then ultimately, once they're on your product listing, reinforcing the benefits that this product provides to the shopper so that they make a connection and say, yes, you're solving my problem. I want this product. The challenge that we have, and the reason why this is necessary, especially now, is because most consumers have gotten trained to simply scroll past listings. We know now that what we've always kind of known is that a majority of shoppers are coming in through the Amazon mobile app. 60% on average coming through mobile app is pretty standard. That's something we've known for a while now. We've always kind of guessed from outside of Amazon data, but Amazon actually stated this in some of the new reporting they provided within the last couple of days. And so what we want to be able to do is, knowing that consumers are now have a greater attention deficit. In other words, they're scrolling past social media, TikTok, all these kind of platforms have trained them to just scan past content quickly. And they're looking for things that are going to grab their attention. It's got motion, it's got color, it's got flash, it's got, everything's fighting for their attention. You need to be able to set your product out from the rest of your competition by having it so that your product grabs their attention first, pulls them away from the rest of your competition so that you get their attention exclusively, and then, of course, demonstrate how your product solves the problems that they have. So let's get into that. This is primarily going to solve things as far as if you've got below average visits, or what we call sessions, right? Below average engagement or click through to your product listing through your ads, for instance. It's going to solve for having below average conversion rate. That's ultimately what we want. We're going to increase traffic, and we're going to increase sales at the same time. Ultimately, that's going to translate to profitability, especially when it comes to your advertising. All right. So then how do we actually stand out from the competition? Let me go ahead and just jump right in here. So part of the search and rescue method that I created is identifying taking four primary actions. The first one is identifying the pattern that exists in the search results. If you take your number one search term, for instance, and you search on Amazon right now, you're going to get back a list of results that may include, hopefully they include your own product, but includes all your competitors as well. There's a common pattern that I'm going to teach you how to identify so that you can break away from that pattern, so that you can differentiate and stand out from your competition, hence the title of the presentation. Next, we're going to use that in order to make changes to your main image to grab their attention, grab the eyeball, so that your product main image attracts them first over your competitors. And then we're going to do the same thing with your product title, so that your product title piques their interest and say, hey, there's something unique about this. I want this product I want to know more about. I'm going to click through to the product listing to find out more. And then also ultimately, once we get them into the product listing, among other things, the most important thing that we can do in order to close that consumer into becoming a buyer of the product is to answer the questions of what's in it for me. I don't care about your brand story. I don't care about what charities that you donate to. I don't care about the specifications of the product. I want to know, if I buy your product, what's it going to do for me? What pain is that going to solve? What inconvenience is that going to take away? What's it in for me, right? So think of it from a selfish standpoint. And I'll tell you is that most brands fail at this last part because actually they fail in this entire process because they are too close to the product themselves. They know too much. They know all the industry acronyms. They know what every single ingredient does when it's mixed in with other ingredients. If they're selling a supplement, they know all the terminology their manufacturer has been spewing out for the last 3 years. They know so much that they forget to think like an average consumer who does not understand, does not have your level of knowledge, and therefore you're not speaking to their level. You're not speaking to their language. You're speaking at your language. You're speaking at the manufacturer's language. You're speaking to the industry experts, and that's only a very small fraction of your target audience. When it comes to identifying the common pattern, we're going to scan the search results. Of course, we pick your favorite search term, pull it up on Amazon. We scan through the search results for maybe your primary or maybe your top 2 or 3 target search terms. And we're going to observe some common things with the main image. In the main image, we're going to look for what are the common colors that are being used in the main images of all your competitors in the search results. Now, if you're not on page 1, if you're on page 5, look at what's on page 5, right? If that's currently where you're ranking, if somebody gets to the point where they are using a search term and they're on page 5, now how do you stand out among your page 5 competitors? So keep it in the context of who surrounds you as competitors, okay? If you're on page 1, obviously you're looking at all the page 1 results. But you're going to look for things like common colors. Maybe everybody uses white packaging or has, black package, black products, for instance, throughout. Are they all facing the same direction? I'll give you some examples here in a moment, but is everything facing the same direction? Is it a chair? All the chairs, for instance, all the office chairs are pointing to the right side. Are all the shoes pointed to the left side? Are they, is it flat 2-dimensional view, or is there some depth? Is there a product behind a product that is in your image? What is common, not with your own specific one, but what do you commonly see repeated among your competitors? Same thing can be for shape. Does everybody have a square package or a square product, for instance? Are they all just squared up facing, or are they turned to an angle? How is the general shapes being consistent across the search results? And then, of course, another one which is fairly common is sellers that are trying to push how much value that they're giving right in the main image, right? It's like applying for a job interview and you hand them a 1-page resume and it's just one big paragraph and you're expecting them to read the entire paragraph all in once. And guess what? They don't. They set it to the side because they want quick answers. They want to make quick decisions within 5 seconds. They're not going to read. They're not going to take the time in order to really separate things. So if your main image looks like just a clutter of 20 different accessories around a main product, your competitors are probably doing the same thing. That becomes a great opportunity for you to break away from what everybody is doing. Now let's look at the common patterns in titles. Titles, you're going to have some common terminologies. Usually it's industry terminology. Maybe it's search term terminology. Maybe it's acronyms or percentages or milligram doses. All these things that are commonly repeating among your competitive set in their titles. Look for what is common. Again, what we're looking to do is we're looking to break away from what is common so that it grabs the attention of the shopper. So they go, wait, what is this? They take a second glance at the main image. They take a second glance at the title. And that's the extra amount of time and attention that you need to potentially pull a lot more traffic into your product listing. Other things can include as far as seller badges and coupon codes and limited time deals. I'll show you some examples on that. In the examples of the main images, let's say, for instance, in this case here, I'm showing where the competitors are primarily showing a black shoe and they're all pointed to one side. If most of the competitors have their products pointed in one direction with one color, flat angle, there's no angle to, or, flat facing, there's no angle to it, there's no depth to it, then it gives you quite a bit of leeway in order to be a little bit more creative in your main image. That can mean that maybe you simply just flip it and turn your product the opposite of what most of your competitors are doing. That's enough to grab people's attention. Maybe it's setting it at an angle, or if everybody's got an angle, maybe you go flat enough to separate you from your competition, unlike what they're doing. Maybe in this case, now, obviously, if they're searching for a black shoe and you have a red shoe, then yeah, a red shoe is going to pop. Color does pop. Motion, bright colors like blue, red, green tend to catch the eye first. And then things like white space and things that are just odd or seem out of place. It's kind of a common gimmick that is used off of Amazon where people can get away with it. Well, they'll turn their image completely upside down simply because it's out of place, but it's designed to catch the eye of a shopper, the eye of somebody who's browsing content. Now, Amazon probably won't let you get away with flipping the image upside down, but you probably will see that off Amazon. But in the case of the red shoe, imagine that was a black shoe. What they've done is they've done two things. One is they've created a steep angle in the photo in order to differentiate themselves from the flat angles that are being presented by the other products. The second thing they're doing is they're taking, in this case, the other pair, the other shoe in the pair of shoes, and they're turning it around to be able to show the sole of the shoe. But you can see not only they don't have it leaning against each other. Right? One shoe is not touching the other one. There's a gap. There's an air gap. There's some distance between the front image and the back image. We call that depth. By creating depth when everybody else's common pattern is to have no depth, where it's just flat right up front, maybe one product, that depth and those angles catch the eye of a shopper because they stand out from the rest of them. The second row is a common, kind of what I was mentioning before regarding clutter, trying to cram too much into an image. Now, you can see in the first 3 or 4 images here on the second row where they've got pots and pans and they're just like here's everything that you get. They're just spitting up at the shopper saying, here's all that you get, here's all the value, and they're just going to throw it at you right up front. The problem with that is that they've got them so clustered in. The photography was done poorly so that everything's clustered in together and there's not a whole lot of visual separation. And so it confuses the brain. The seller is thinking, hey, here's everything that I'm giving you. The shopper is, I'm confused. I don't know what I'm looking at. I can't differentiate, especially if you look at maybe the second and the fourth image where they're similar colors and they kind of blend in. Now, here's some tricks to this. The second image, they made a weak attempt at some color pop in order to grab your attention. They put a couple of little red apples in there. It's a little too subtle, right? But if you look at the fourth image, what they've done is they've taken their red packaging and they've put it in the back behind all of their products, so that even though they have a cluttered image, they added in a larger red color swash, a little color pop in the background by simply putting their colorful box in the background. The reason I like image number 5 is because it's cleaner. You can see more white space. It doesn't look cluttered. It looks laid out, and then they actually change the angle, similar to the way we did with the shoes. You change the angle to create more depth and 2 different layers of presentation so that not only does it look more professionally shot, it looks cleaner and easier to understand what it is you're getting. But the trick on this, the subtle thing, is it creates a whole bunch of white space around this image that kind of works like the color pop. When everybody else has got a cluttered image where they're using all the way of all four corners of the image, if you introduce white space, then you're introducing something that's going to grab shoppers' attention. So consider split testing that. I'm a big fan of using Amazon Experiments A/B split testing for the main image to split test for 4 weeks these types of images. When it comes to titles, be careful of industry terminology. It's not uncommon for us as manufacturers. I've got my own brands. You get to know that product really well. You get to know what the acronyms mean and what the codes mean and the percentages and all that kind of stuff. But you've got to remember to step back. This is something I've always struggled with. I've always been told by my business partner over at Canopy Management is like, okay, you got to explain it to me like I'm 5. You've got to explain it in simpler terms so it's easier to understand. It's something I always struggle with. So I know a lot of other people do too. And that is, you've got to use language that somebody can quickly understand. Don't make them work. Don't make them have to search on Google in order to figure out what that means. Don't assume that they're coming in with the same answers that you're presenting or that all your competitors have presented who also know too much about their language. In this example here, UL94, well, a firefighter is going to know that that means fire resistant. But your average consumer is not going to have any clue what UL94 means. But if you're the product that replaces UL94 or adds in the term fire resistant, that I can wrap my head around. That I understand quickly. And the bonus is I understand what's in it for me. Cool. I want fire resistant. I don't know what UL94 means. Now, when it comes to badges and discounts, badges and discounts create an opportunity for you to cycle back and forth between other images that have color pops. Now, bestseller badge, because it's orange, sure, that one's going to catch. That's going to do 2 things. One, it's going to have implied social proof that a bunch of other people have bought this, and therefore it's a good product. It's kind of loose on the logic, right? Amazon's Choice, it does create a little bit of creates a badge. But a lot of people don't know what Amazon's Choice means. In fact, my wife even asked me that last night, and I kind of struggled to even answer. And I know, I know the platform, and even I struggled to explain to her what Amazon's Choice is. Imagine what a consumer who doesn't live in this space looks at that and just says, like, okay, I trust Amazon. Amazon's making a recommendation, but I really don't know what it means. Could mean that they're maybe just getting the biggest affiliate commission. I don't know. So what I try to do is I try to cycle back and forth between coupon codes, because coupon codes have that pop of green, and the red toned one of the limited time deal. Limited time deal is based off of reducing your original price down by at least 5 or 6%. Coupon codes are where you introduce a coupon after the fact that says, hey, you can get this discount. Couple of tips on this. One is don't run them at the same time. Alternate every 5 or 6 weeks between the two so that you can actually always have a badge running, either the red limited time deal where you've discounted from your retail price down by 5 or 6%, or not concurrent, but or you've got a dollar amount coupon code. I'm showing a percentage here because that's what most of your competitors are doing. But don't make the consumer do any kind of math in calculating the discount. Just tell them a dollar amount off. It's much easier for them to quickly understand it. They're going to understand, hey, I get even greater discount on this, and it creates that green color pop. Now, again, like the other things, when we're trying to differentiate the main image and the title, you're doing it because your competitors are not doing it. In other words, if everybody's using a green coupon code, don't use green coupon codes. So that's it's always about trying to stand out, try to do the opposite. All right. So now I've gone through as far as I've kind of already gone through these. This is kind of more of a reiteration in just using words in order to talk about grabbing the image. Just kind of reminder to these though is with the product search and rescue method that my team at Canopy uses is using, really standing out that image, A/B split testing using Amazon experiments. Always use the native Amazon experiments. Third-party image comparisons don't work the same. Okay, they're not that effective. You can speculate on those. I still use them. I still use other services outside of Amazon as far as, hey, what do you like about this image, preference? But it is not split testing. The Amazon experiments, the native A/B split testing, where every other consumer is getting a different image. Every other consumer is getting a different title. You can also do A+ content when you get to that point as well. But primarily, you want to make sure that you're testing and testing and testing, okay? Every 4 weeks, I always have Amazon experiments running constantly, year-round. I never stop. I don't just do it once for 4 weeks. I always set up another test because I'm always looking to improve incrementally throughout the entire year. This is how we gain some huge increases in conversion rates just off of main image, just off of title, just off of content of the product listing by always testing. Yeah, it's more work. But if you're willing to do that compared to your competitors, you're going to continue to pull away from your competitors and continually increase your conversion rate and continually to see higher profitability compared to your competitors. Who do you think is going to last longer? Who's going to be more attractive to an aggregator if that is your path? Otherwise, you have staff working for you. Might as well make sure they get paid properly. And so, yeah, switching out, split testing the main images. I showed the images as far as like a couple of those examples. So that's kind of just a reminder of some of the different types of testing that you can do. Somebody says, well, I don't, I only have a black product. I don't have a red product. No, it's not about the color. It's about, can you add color to the background and maybe putting a box behind the shoe in the background, for instance. Can you change the angle of the shoe or the product so that it simply just is different than most of your competitors? This is kind of what I did want to point out to you is this is something where you can actually get away with it on Amazon for your main image. Okay. This is where in this particular case, this particular supplement has a dosage milligrams, the 2,360 milligram dosage that is significantly higher than than all competitors. However, it's hard to read on the bottle by itself, and that's just what they were showing was the bottle. So if you have a compelling benefit or a compelling feature that is getting hidden in the main image or any image because it is shrunk down too small to easily read and quickly read, right, without zooming in, then consider modifying the image, like in this case here, where you're essentially magnifying a very specific piece of text, blowing it up a little bit. So yeah, it bleeds out beyond what the bottle image, as long as you're not adding in outside, badges or symbols or graphics on the main image. Amazon is going to say, okay, this is still fair. Okay. You're simply just amplifying a message in this particular image. So this is simply magnifying it so that somebody can easily see, because think about on a mobile phone. If you're on a mobile phone, you're on a smartphone, you've got this small image. The advantage of the Amazon Seller app on a smartphone is that the images are king because they're right up top. They're easy to swipe through right at the top. So you better have all of your images dialed in. Okay. Your main image is going to be shrunk down even further on mobile than it is on desktop. So make sure if you have some compelling piece of information that is a feature or a benefit for your product that you want to highlight, you might want to magnify it you don't have to necessarily do it on the packaging, but you can certainly do it on your images. Some examples with a title. Now, figure also with mobile is that for most smartphones, looking at the Amazon Seller app, the first 75 to 80 characters of the title is about where it cuts off. Usually I would recommend at most, I'm not saying like reduce your title length to 80. I'm saying in the first 75 to 80 characters, make sure you've got the most compelling information in that title that helps you stand out from your competition and ideally hooks the shopper to pique their interest to come in. I like to switch out words. If everybody is using a particular word, for instance, like in the example here, if everybody is using, double stitched, top stitching for an office chair, for instance, I might come up with something like apex stitching. Well, apex stitching, okay, I'm not quite sure what that means. Apex can simply just translate to top or peak. And you can explain that in your listing, but apex stitching may be saying the same thing as all of your competitors, but you're using different terminology that draws the attention of a shopper as being a little bit out of place. Like, that's curious. I wonder what this is. They seem to be the only one who has this apex stitching. Is it special? Let me click through and find out. You're begging the curiosity for them to click through. You're enticing them to want to learn more. We also find, and we've done this through a lot of experiments as well, is shoppers' eyes on whether it's social media or shopping channels like Amazon is, for whatever reason, there's certain letters and letter combinations that tend to catch our eyes, that get us to pause for a second. You probably recognize this when somebody does a misspelling or something is a little bit out of place. Capital X's, things that have like sharp angles to them. Capital X, capital Z, capital, W. When you've got an extra O instead of, you've got a product that says Boost or something, right? And you add an extra O in there. Sure, it makes it into a misspelling, but it catches a lot more eyeballs. They understand what the word is once they do a double glance, but the first thing, your first step is to get that double glance, to get them to look back at that and go, wait, what was that? Get them to pause for a split second to take a look at your main image and your title, and ideally read your title, because that's what you need to accomplish first. We've used some other creative words that have worked out pretty well to increase the number of sessions to a product listing. These can include things like on a phone case, on a smartphone case, for instance, that did a very good job as far as protecting the face from breaking, right? They're all supposed to do that, but not all do that well. And so we kind of look at it from a standpoint of a faceplant guard. And so people, they read faceplant, and of course they think it's like, oh yeah, like I've done that before. I've actually fallen and just smacked the ground. It creates kind of an interesting imagery quickly in their head, and it catches their eye. First of all, it's kind of a funny word to be using in a title for a product, but they kind of get it. It's like, oh, okay, if you fall, and then this kind of guards against that kind of breakage. It's not designed to be gimmicky. It's designed to be using words that are slightly different than your competition, the pattern that you see in the titles of the competition, so that you can stop the scroll. So you can grab the eye of the shopper and ultimately pull them in with a little bit of curiosity, maybe a little bit of humor, in order to pull them into the product listing to learn more. We also did that one with a certain kind of, it was like a coat hook, or it was some kind of a hook that we had on the wall. And a common problem that we had learned from reading reviews of competitors was you hook something on there and sometimes it would snap back, right? And so it would throw whatever you put on it. And so we said, it's like, well, this one doesn't have this. It's got a locking feature so that it doesn't flip back when it gets pulled down. And so we put in, it won't catapult. Well, catapult won't catches their eye, and catapult catches their eye, because first of all, none of the competitors are using that in their title, and it's like the image, it creates some imagery. It's like, oh, catapult, they're shooting off. So that has actually worked in each of these cases. These are kind of simple examples where simply just modifying and doing split testing through Amazon experiments again, right? Testing to see whether or not we can not only increase the number of sessions, which is the first goal, right? Get them to notice, get them to click through, to increase sessions, and then ultimately to increase conversion rates. That brings me to the actual product listing. Answering the question right up front, quickly. And because we're dealing with the difference of the way that content is laid out for mobile devices versus desktop, laptop devices, you do have to make sure that this is across everything. Usually your first 3 data points, your first 3 points, your first 3 images, the first 3 bullet points, the first 3 sentences or bullet points or images in your A+ content. Hopefully you're using A+ content because there's a lot of benefits to using that, and it's not conversion rate. There's a lot of other benefits to that. You want to be able to have your messaging state right up front where you lead with what is the benefit to me as a shopper that I can quickly understand within just a few seconds. That's the 5-second rule. So I want to be able to understand quickly, okay, here's a benefit to me. I understand it. I want that. What you want the shopper to be doing is quickly just kind of scanning through. If it's your images, your bullets, your A+, I want that. I want that. I want that. You see the pattern there? You're getting them to say yes, 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 again and again, so that they acknowledge, yes, this is the product for me. They're addressing my pain points. I understand what this product does. I'm not introducing doubt. I'm not introducing confusion. I am addressing what does this do for me right up front, maybe in 3 to 5 words on bullet points or in the A+, and then I might throw on a hyphen and then attach, here's the feature that supports that particular benefit. You can have complete bullet points. You can have complete paragraphs and A+ content, but make sure that each of your bullet points, the main point you're trying to drive in, the what's in it for me, they can absorb within just a few quick seconds. They can quickly understand it. And in your images, this is a very, very common problem I see on secondary images, is trying to, again, cram too much information. Remember how I was talking about the clutter of all the dish pans and the pots and the pans and everything? The spatulas all thrown in the main image to show value, and they screw it up because it just looks like spaghetti to a shopper. A lot of your images look exactly the same way. So that's one of the things that I have my team at Canopy do, is we make sure that we create more succinct, clearly, quickly to understand within just a few seconds, what is it that I'm looking at? We try to use as few words as possible in each image. We try to limit how much we're trying to communicate in each image. That means reducing the number of words, reducing the number of bullet points. If you've got an image that has more than, like, say, 4 or 5 graphics, 4 or 5 images, 4 or 5 bullet points, or groups of words, it's too many. It's not going to be consumed completely by a consumer, by a shopper, within just a few seconds. And you need them to continue to have that fast pace of, I get it, I get it, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. I understand what's in it for me. I want what you have. The commitment is short. They buy. Okay. So, in conclusion, if you were if you were recording and taking screenshots, whatever, this is definitely the one you take a screenshot of. Kind of recap. The process of the product search and rescue method that we use is to identify that common pattern among your competitors from your of the images and then the titles. Then do A/B split testing on your main image in Amazon experiments in order to do the opposite. Test changing out your image to try to get away from what your competitors are doing so you stand out. Third is you're doing the same thing essentially to the words in your title, focusing first on the first 75 to 80 characters of your title. You can have a full title, just make sure that what you're experimenting with the most is the first 75 to 80 characters. That is going to be most visible for most devices. And you're split testing to see, how do I set myself apart from the competitors? Use words that the consumer understands, but are different than what all of my competitors are using in their titles. And then making sure in the product listing itself, in the secondary images, in the videos, in the bullet points, in the A+ content, or even the description if you're not brand registered, that I am leading with the benefit of what's in it for me. Punch 1, punch 2, punch 3. Make sure they know right up front what are the top 3 benefits of this product to me, and then support those benefits with whatever unique features that your product has to support that. That's going to get you increased visibility, increased engagement, meaning more sessions to your product listing, increasing conversion rate, right? Which we definitely want to have. So you not only increase your traffic, you've increased the number of sales you got on that traffic. That's going to help you reduce your ad costs, increase your profitability, and allow you to start launching more products and more brands. This is the year to do it, because I see this every single day. I'll go out and I'll do an audit on a search term for a client or somebody who just asks, and I can easily pick out, here's how I would take down this product niche, because the competitors are simply just sitting on their hands. They're not taking action. They're not split testing, and they're not trying to stand out to the shopper. You can do that today. I'm Brian Johnson. Get to it.
Okay, thank you so much. That was an awesome presentation. You're a really good presenter, so I think I was listening to just just zoning in, listening to you explaining everything. So thanks a lot for that. And Augustus, will we now go over what Brian prepared for others in the VIP package and in the VIP session as well?
Yes, so I would like to inform the audience that this video is part of Seller Fest online session virtual event, where we have more than 20 experts, Amazon experts, sharing different tips. And we have 20 plus live streams, but we also recorded additional videos with every speaker which are included in the VP section. And we also recorded with Brian. So Brian, could you give us an overview? What did you share in the VP video?
Yeah, so in the VIP video, I was talking primarily about the 4 tactics to profitable advertising in 2022. So what I was focusing on is more of what works now. Obviously, the data set that Canopy has available to us is pretty significant, and so we get to see across a lot of product niches, and we can see the patterns, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. We can see the patterns as far as which ad types are more reliably going to produce profitability. And so that's and what is working now. And it does change every 6 months to a year. That definitely changes as far as what's currently working for a number of reasons. And so I go into more detail as far as why some of those have changed. What are the 4 primary tactics that I would recommend that anybody use in order to focus in on profitability in their advertising? But certainly make sure and do the standout split testing and conversion rate optimization of your listings in conjunction with implementing the VIP video, which is the 4 tactics to profitable advertising.
And as part of the VIP package, besides Brian Johnson's video, Brian R. Johnson's, as he mentioned in the beginning, we also have other 20 videos from other speakers of the event, and different experts. They share different strategies, tactics, advanced information, worksheets, SOPs, walkthroughs, checklists, blueprints. So a lot of useful information, and the link to VIP package you will find below in the description of this video.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot for the price tag. I mean, that's well worth it. So yes. Good on you that you put that together.
Thank you. And now we have quite a few questions. So
yeah, I think now it's the right time to go to the questions, because people are already waiting to get answers. So the first question: when launching with PPC, how long will it take to get initial impressions and sales? Do I have to troubleshoot if there are no impressions on day 1 and 2? If so, what to look for to fix the issue?
Okay. Well, so from an advertising standpoint, this is a very common mistake that I see is there's a lot of teaching out there that just says, oh, by Amazon including, is simply just to set up your campaigns. I'm guessing you're probably running a sponsored products campaign, most likely a sponsored products keyword campaign. 9 times out of 10, the reason you're not getting impressions in the first week is because you're using the wrong campaign bidding strategy. You're probably using down only or up and down, which because the ad auction does not trust the brand new campaign, they are intentionally, and they state that they do this, they're intentionally reducing your starting bid to the point where you're no longer even in the running. You didn't even show up to the starting line of the race because you got eliminated because your bid got reduced so much. So test this, switch over to a fixed bidding strategy, fixed bidding campaign strategy for that same sponsor products keyword campaign, and then try it again. I'll bet you get different results.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that.
And by the way, so just so that people are aware too, we typically only need to do the fixed bidding strategy for the first couple of weeks. So it's not a long term. It's just a temporary, right out of the gate kind of strategy.
Okay, cool. So Jeff is asking, how do you feel about the angle image facing away from the center of the page versus toward the center of the page? Any downside?
No, I mean, that's a great question, Jeff. I mean, so there's a lot of research in the past from decades ago, in fact. In fact, I believe there was some of the big courses that used to teach this, 5, 6, 7 years ago, that would say like, oh, buyer psychology is that if the product is facing toward the buy button, then that's going to subconsciously suggest to shoppers that they should next click on the add to cart button. It's a nice theory. It's probably been tested in psychology tests and everything with some limited double-blind studies and all that kind of stuff. But that's not your biggest challenge right now. Your biggest challenge right now is your main image gets dropped into search results with a bunch of competitors and you don't stand out at all. And so a consumer simply just skims right past your image, right past your title without even taking a second glance. And so changing your image to stand out from your competition is how you stop the scroll, how you grab a second glance from that consumer. That's all it takes to sometimes just engage that shopper.
All right, another question from Jeff about images. Do angle images work better overall than flat ones?
It's not about which one works better. It's about doing the opposite of what your competitors are commonly doing. So that includes we want to be, and believe me, I'm an engineer. I've got an engineer mind as well, and so I'm guessing you are too, Jeff. So I want to be able to say this is the answer. This is the one color. This is the one angle, but it's not that simple. It is as simple as simply just observing what is commonly used in my product niche for the target search terms that I'm going after. How do I break away from what everybody else is doing? How do I become the black sheep among my competitors so that consumers can see my product? That's how you decide which one is better.
All right. Michael wants to know, on the title, you say get different, but other consultants are saying put it on the top keywords, which most of the competitors are doing. How do you solve this?
So there is a combination, of course, of keyword indexing, of trying to have your product show up in search results, get indexed, get ranked across a wide range, a wider range of keywords than your competitors are. There's some good practice in that. It's not guaranteed to bring you sales, but it can certainly bring you more sessions, which does help. So we can work with that. There are many places inside of a product listing, including the A+ content that I mentioned earlier, where you can embed additional keywords in order to get more width. You can fill out the bullet points and the descriptions and the A plus and hidden field. There's like 3 different hidden types of hidden fields on a listing that you can do as well in order to add in a wide range of a lot of different keywords, so you can get indexed for a lot more keywords than your competitors. In the title, however, there is a difference as far as I might be able to rank number 1 for a low competition keyword if I lead my title with that keyword. If I move it to the back of my title, I might drop from position number 1 to position number 4. Yes, that can happen. The question that I would present, or the challenge that I would say, is just because I rank number 1 for that keyword, am I actually getting conversions from that keyword, or am I only ranking it not because of the sales that come in on that keyword, but because the competition is so low and the search volume is so low that it was easy for my product to rank? At which point I would say, yes, in your title, you should probably have 2 or 3 different combinations of your target keywords that you're going after in your title in total. But make sure that in that first 75 to 80 characters that you've got something that is unique about your product that is going to grab the attention of the shopper, beg their curiosity, and just 2 or 3 words is all it takes to pull them into your listing to want to know more. You've got to highlight some kind of benefit or feature that is unique about your product. And even if you're selling the same product as everybody else, maybe they simply just didn't point out a benefit or feature that you could, and that makes your product stand out. Oftentimes what that means is your famously unknown brand name can probably go to the end of the title rather than the front of the title.
Another question from Michael. How do you get the limited time deal?
It's a great question, Michael. So a limited time deal is primarily based off of you've been going along for at least, I think it's 30 days. And so that's one of the reasons why I try to run the coupons, alternate coupons between the limited deal and the coupon. The limited deal is simply just saying, hey, here is my normal price that I've been running for the last 30 days at least. Now, all of a sudden, I've put it on sale for 5-6% below what I've the static price that I've had for the last 30 days. That will oftentimes, not every time, so there is some exclusions, but most of the time that will trigger the limited time deal badge, and it'll show, hey, there's a limited time deal. Here's the discount. And that'll run, but it only, that's got a clock on it too. It might run. I've seen it run for 2 weeks. I've seen it run for 4 weeks before it finally turns off. And then you switch back over to something else like a coupon that you then run for another 5 or 6 weeks, for instance.
Okay, very good. So let's take another one from Preet. So is it a good idea to use your packaging together with your product in main image? This will stand out from competition, but it's against Amazon terms of service.
It's not actually technically against Amazon terms of service. And I realize that's an arguable point, and I'd love to have that discussion with those who are looking at it word for word. I know, for instance, that Amazon is certainly inconsistent as far as how they kind of police the main image. I know I certainly have had a number of battles with them regarding you can't have text on the main image, but it was my brand name. And had to remove those. I've had some images approved and some not approved that have had a package in the background because the text was readable. Usually it's about the text or the graphics that get added to an image that throw off the terms of service. Putting a package, like a colorful package that has a color pop that stands out from your competition, and not so that it's right up next to it and it's sharing the same plane, the same space right up front with the product, set it to the back. Have it more three-dimensional. Have it more depth. Have a gap between your main product and the packaging, which seems like it's kind of off in the distance a little bit, but gives a little bit of a color splash or changes the shape of your main image that allows you to stand out from your competition.
Okay, very good. So there's one question regarding to the slide quite of the beginning of your slides where you show different first images about the pants. So Jeff is asking that the image 5 of the pants wasn't a square in the format. So does it matter or does it change? Because it was like a more narrower
Correct.
image.
Yeah. I mean, and that has to do with just me copying the images over and how it's how it copied over versus how it actually displays as a square on Amazon. So most likely that was simply just a copy paste issue for me. I had that with the shoes also, I believe. And that is simply, in fact, it probably in the pants, for instance, you probably had a bunch more white space top and bottom when you look at it, the square on Amazon search results than what I was showing. Mine was more compressed and I was trying to keep it all kind of uniform and in place. But really, yeah, there was probably more white space than even what I was showing.
Okay, good. So Michael is asking the following. Can you magnify a part of the image that is not text, but is something like a cleat that is attached to the shoe? The product is a cycling shoe.
Yeah. I mean, they do that. I think, I mean, even in my example, it was showing both the top and the bottom of a shoe. I don't see any reason why you couldn't get away with showing that. You probably want to avoid kind of the classic circular graphics of the magnifying glass kind of graphics on your main image. You could probably do that on your secondary image. But really, is that cleat what is standing out from the competition? Is it grabbing the shopper? Is that specifically, are they looking for that specific feature that is going to differentiate your product? Or is it simply just saying, here's the shape of the cleat? In other words, does it need to be on the main image or can it go on the second image, for instance, in order to highlight it? But you could certainly test it. I would test it first and foremost, of course, again, with Amazon Experiments and do an A/B split test on your main image for that.
Okay, very good. And actually, we do have one question about A/B testing. Let me take that real quickly so it connects with the previous question. So do you recommend running experiments full time because Amazon recommends to do that?
I do 4-week tests. And the reason I do 4-week tests is because I want to be able to move on. You can do 8-week, 10-week tests and everything. That is a little bit overkill. If I have enough traffic, it's not even about the sessions. It's about how many purchases am I getting? Am I actually getting a statistically significant test? So unfortunately, I'm a math and science geek and that kind of stuff too. And so what that essentially means is, do I have enough data for the results to be judged as accurate, or is it misleading? Usually when there's not enough data, it can be misleading and skewed to possibly give you, point you in the wrong direction. So I would say that as long as you're getting at least a dozen sales out of a test at a minimum, that's probably going to be enough for you to make an educated guess that yes, there was a slight difference, and then roll over to your next test. But I would start with a 4-week test and see if that captures it well enough, and just keep on rolling over 4-week, 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 4-week. Just keep on doing it year round.
Another question from Yannick is, how do you balance shorter bullets with getting in lots of keywords?
Well, so you don't have to necessarily shorten your bullets. I like to usually shorten bullets because I'm trying to have a succinct bit of information that somebody can quickly consume. I prefer that. However, there are times when it's more competitive and I need to get more keywords in and I don't have any other place to put those keywords. I have no choice but to expand on my bullet points. So I might prefer to have a bullet point that's no more than 6 to 10 words, but sometimes I've got to use the full thing, especially when I'm first launching a product, just to make sure that I'm indexed across the board. And then once I get the thing, when it gets rolling and I've got sales and I've got regular traffic, then I can go back and make it and clean it up and make it more succinct and more compelling to a shopper to increase the conversion rate. So it's kind of a two-parter, go for the full bullet point when you first launch, and then shrink it down to be more succinct and more understandable and more compelling to a shopper as your product matures.
All right. I also wanted to remind that people, those watching live, you can still comment in the chat. Also, you're welcome if you're watching a replay to comment below in the description, and we will forward these questions to Brian in the future. And yes, if you enjoy so far the content, we still have a few questions. If you enjoy, don't forget to click like, subscribe. And the next question is from Sema. Within the first 80 characters in the title, what is the best place to add the brand name?
I mean, if you're gonna try to force the brand name into the first 80 characters, I'd say, I mean, it depends. If you have a short brand name, you could probably put it up front. And if you're trying to really establish your brand name, most shoppers don't know who you are. They don't care who you are. And so if you're really trying to drive brand recognition because you've got a lot of other products, if you've got a short brand name, you may want to put that right up front, especially if you have a wide selection of other products in your portfolio. Otherwise, I would honestly put it toward the back of the title, which is typically beyond the first 80 characters.
All right. Next question from Rich. How does the fixed bidding strategy work?
Rich, that's a $20 question right there. So I won't be able to go through it here because it's a long explanation about how the ad auction works. So if anybody wants to comment and hit me up afterwards, I'll be glad to discuss it. But it literally would probably be a 10-minute discussion just for this one question of how the ad auction actually works, which most people don't know.
All right. Another Rich is asking, what if your packaging shows a lifestyle or usage photo of your product? Can that be your main image?
Yeah, I don't see why not. In fact, it's probably going to be pretty small, but yeah, you certainly can. I recently saw where somebody had, it was kind of like a lifestyle image that was on a bottle, and then they showed the box that it came in that had the exact same graphics. I don't agree with that because it didn't help. You're simply just repeating the same lifestyle image twice. That's unnecessary. But yes, if you do have a little bit of lifestyle and it's actually visible, here's the test on that. Look at that image on your smartphone and tell me, can somebody really understand what they're looking at quickly? That's going to be your test as far as whether or not it's too small to use it.
All right. Sema is asking, which bidding strategy and placement do you recommend for launch and mature products?
So the bidding strategy and placement for a launch bidding strategy, the first couple of weeks, I would do fixed bidding strategy in order to overcome. That's essentially to take away the control of the ad auction to naturally reduce your bid on your untrusted campaign. Not every campaign type has a campaign bidding strategy or placement. From a placement standpoint, I usually I might start out with like a 25 to 50% top of search, and then test from there. Especially when I'm first launching a product, to go out with anything over, 50% or 100% placement, you're probably not going to get the results you think you're going for, because Amazon will suppress it and you won't even run. Suppress it, in other words, they won't, because they're not looking, the way the ad auction works is they're not actually looking at placement increase until the end of the calculation, the score calculation in the ad auction. And by then you've already gone through a number of filters and adjustments that has probably either eliminated your ad from the running or has reduced the bid, which then eliminates your ad from the running. And so then placement is then added on at the very end. And so most ads don't actually get the placement adjustment unless they happen to make that cutoff and they're in the running to show an ad, which is a much smaller segment. From a mature product standpoint, I'm usually switching back over to, I'll test up and down when I'm transitioning from fixed over to maybe down only. I'll test up and down bidding strategy just to see, is Amazon raising my CPC because they trust me, or are they lowering my CPC because they don't trust me? That's kind of your litmus test. Do they trust me yet? So fixed to up and down as a test, and then probably usually down to down only, just to be more efficient as far as optimizing and controlling the spend.
All right, thank you. Two last questions from Rina is what's the average rate of conversion?
So Amazon hasn't specifically stated this in years. We believe that the average conversion rate on Amazon across the board is somewhere in the 12 to 15% range, which is much higher. It's like 5 times higher than other platforms, e-commerce platforms. So there's a very high level of trust. However, the range in each product niche varies widely. You could have supplements that are driven by influencers on Dr. Oz show, and you get an 80-90% conversion rate. You could have clothing. One of the famous products that I try to avoid is like baby bibs, like baby clothing and clothing in general, usually, unless it's very specialized, because usually there is so much competition that introduces a whole slew of child variations with different colors, patterns, combinations, fabrics, whatever the case is, that it slows down the decision-making process of shoppers. And usually things that have a lot of variations, color, pattern, size, all that, usually reduces the conversion rate considerably, usually single digit. In the baby bibs example that everybody seems to love to start out with, because I've got a baby, I'm going to come out with baby bibs. You're talking about usually a 3 to 5% conversion rate, which is horrible from an Amazon standpoint. Don't do that.
Okay, very good. Thanks a lot. So we actually got one more question. So we still have 2 questions left.
Fire away.
Do you have any product image photographers that you can recommend to our viewers?
I don't. I have a phenomenal team over at Canopy Management that does just award-winning work. But unfortunately, I don't make a recommendation outside of my own team. So sorry.
It was worth asking still.
It's a great question. I just, unfortunately, it's a conflict too.
Okay, let's then take the second one. So we have trouble showing our product It's a large stuffed animal in the main image. Any thoughts to make the people scroll stop?
Trouble showing our large stuffed animal.
So probably it's quite big product, and any ideas how to get customers' attention?
Yeah, because I would think that, let's say, for instance, it's a big teddy bear, for instance. And it's a big brown teddy bear, and all the competitors who, when they're searching, shoppers are searching for brown teddy, big brown teddy bear, they tend to be round and fluffy. It tends to fill up the image all by itself. And probably you're going to recognize that there's a common pattern among your competitors where they all have it facing the same direction. Maybe, the eyes are pointing. Maybe it's just sitting there, on its hind end and just kind of staring at the camera. Are your competitors, do they have it facing off completely to the right side? Do they have it where its head is tilted a little bit, or it's coming in at an angle or something? Is there any other kind of angles that you can do that simply break away from the common pattern that your competitors are using in the main image? It's not about what's the right one. It's what's different from what is common among your competitor images.
All right. Last 2 questions. One is from Maha. What do you think about the courses about Amazon that cost almost $5,000 and pop up on Facebook stories? Do you suggest any of these?
No.
She says, I'm new on Amazon. It's kind of
if I had a whole bunch of money to throw away, sure. I would say actually first and foremost is get into, if you have the money, consider a training group, right? Somebody who has a very structured coaching program with a proven track record that they can demonstrate to you before the sale. Otherwise, I would start out with YouTube. There's so much content on YouTube that is valid. Now, are there some bad players on any kind of courses? Sure, there definitely is. jump into some of the communities on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and just say, hey, who do you trust? Who do you avoid? And you're going to get some names dropped, both positive and negative. And then go to YouTube and see what content have they produced that's free for you to test to see, is that content the right fit for you? Because ultimately, if it doesn't resonate with you and you don't take action, you're not going to do anything, and you're going to point the finger at somebody else as the fault, when in fact, you simply just didn't match up your learning style and your execution style, your expectations with the massive amount of content that is currently available out there.
All right. Thank you. I hope it's helpful for Maha. And we still have, let's say it's the last two questions. They are just dropping like a ding, 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 like after the rain. Yeah. Koneski, when does the honeymoon periods actually start? Async creation, offer start date, launch date?
This is another one of those that you could debate it all day long with 10 different experts, and they're all going to say something different. My personal opinion is it starts when you actually go live and you actually have product to sell on your product listing. In other words, once you actually say, okay, this product is created and I've got product that's available to sell. In other words, you got the buy box. That's my opinion. How long it runs is also subjective. Commonly, I've even said this in myself, that the honeymoon period is a couple of weeks long. The reality is that anymore, it's probably more of a degrade over time kind of thing, over a period of weeks, months, where it doesn't simply just go, okay, start, stop, and start and then stop 2 weeks later. It's more of if you're not selling anything, Amazon will probably only give you the first 2 weeks to test before it drops the consideration. If you are selling, if you're actually moving product during that first 2 weeks, they're going to continue to extend it and probably just taper it off over time. So it really depends on whether or not you get the thing kickstarted and moving in that first couple of weeks, as far as whether or not that honeymoon period ends sharply or gradually plays out over months.
Good, thank you. Before we take the last, very, very, very last question, Sema says, thank you for valuable information. Maha says, awesome. She was asking about the course. Earl says, thank you. Augustus Lisette, thank you, Brian, for today's session. See you again tomorrow. Yes, and the last question, the winner is Sema. How do you get an attractive image with a plain home textile like towel?
As far as towels go, here's what I'll tell you is, because I know certainly my team at Canopy, we've experimented with this a number of times with fabrics, with towels, with linens, these kinds of things. And there's a lot of different tricks that we've employed over the years. We usually find that actually the 3D rendering, like a good 3D rendered artist, a little bit more expensive, but they can usually get some very fine detail. They can do amazing work that you wouldn't even know was 3D rendered. Amazon doesn't know that it's 3D rendered, but it's so crisp and clear so that when you zoom in, it's just, you can just feel the fabric as if you were touching it just by the image. Just some phenomenal work that can be done there. So when it comes to fine textures like this, you'd have to have a really, really good studio photographer in order to capture that, where a good 3D rendered artist can probably capture fabric even better, and they can probably make it do things that the photographer can't. They can make it stand up on end and be shaped into a swan, like you get on a cruise ship. There's some different things that you can do to kind of fancy it up, as opposed to here's a flat piece, here's a flat hand towel that sits on your countertop. Have some fun with it. Look, do a YouTube on how to do, napkin characters or towel characters that, cruise ships use. There's ways that you can make it fun, and do some split testing with Amazon Experiments on that image to see, do you get higher engagement? But I can guarantee you're probably going to stand out if everybody else is just using, hey, here's a flat folded, boring towel that is sitting on a shelf. Have some fun with it. Either go really detailed with the 3D rendering or get creative with how you present that towel. It doesn't have to be just folded.
All right. Thank you very much. It was the last question. Thank you, Brian. One more time, could you please remind us how do you help Amazon sellers?
I don't. No, I'm kidding. Of course I do. Yeah. So my expertise, my whole team, we focus in on 3 primary areas. That's going to be, of course, the listing optimization, increasing conversion rate and traffic to product listings. And then, of course, driving additional visibility and blocking competitor ads through Amazon native PPC advertising, as well as, of course, Amazon's demand side DSP advertising. Those are our 3 superpowers. So that is where we have the biggest track record.
Perfect. So we have thanks. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it. Yes.
All right. Cool. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisette. Bye-bye.
See you.
All right. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video where Sharon Evan is explaining how you can differentiate your product from competitors.